added in there to make up for lost time. The WrestleMania Hall of Fame induction ceremony the night before inducting the class of 2016 seems to be where all the attention is lying. The induction of Sting. There's a lot of conversation of Sting's role at WrestleMania this year. Him coming out on the stage and being the headline inductee of the class of 2016 leads him to believe he'll do something with The Undertaker. Something shocking has to happen for him because he's not going to come in and lose the two major pay-per-views, and that's just it. He's your headliner at the Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Joining him on the red carpet will be a presenter for the Big Boss Man, a representative for him. We're going to be seeing Stan Hansen, the Godfather, Jacqueline, the Freebirds, including Michael Hayes, going in the Hall of Fame. So there's a lot to be talked about when talking about the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, and I believe also we're going to be seeing Maria Menounos on the red carpet on the WWE Network prior to it all going down the night before WrestleMania 32. That's always one of the biggest events prior to WrestleMania, the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, where the Hall of Fame inductees take the rightful place amongst the gods every year, and the Hall of Fame segment at WrestleMania every year is to be highlighted too. So Sting has to make an appearance. You got to keep this in mind at WrestleMania, which leads me to believe that we have not seen the last of him, and he will have at least one more match, even if it's not until next year at WrestleMania 33 or as early as SummerSlam, against someone like The Undertaker, because fans want to see The Undertaker versus Sting. Post-WrestleMania 31, the chance of Undertaker, when Sting was debating what the WWE had in store for his future, he didn't know at that point, but he was going to reach out and grab whatever WWE threw his way. So there is a chance of us seeing Sting versus The Undertaker, probably more than there ever has been when you look at the Hell in a Cell match and how it looks on paper between The Undertaker and Shane McMahon. A lot of ways that one could go. I spoke on The Rock and what I think The Rock's pretty much going to do, where he's not in the match with The New Day. Probably he's just going to come out, promo against somebody, rock bottom them, give them the people's elbow, and that's it. Make fun of something for about 10 or 15 minutes to make up for time on the pay-per-view, on the network, whatever, and just come in and go like he always does over the last couple of years at WrestleMania. Ever since WrestleMania 28 and 29, I think The Rock's appearance at WrestleMania, people have been excited for whatever reason, I don't know. But his purpose, at least ever since WrestleMania 30 and 31, the last 2 years, and 3 this year with WrestleMania 32, has pretty much been defeated and really is pointless because The Rock's coming in and doing nothing apart from what Sting or somebody else could do. Of course, without Sting, of course, is the headline of this year's WrestleMania, with going in the Hall of Fame as your headline inductee, as many have before him. But it's really awesome knowing that Sting is going in the Hall of Fame and someone's actually representing the Boss Man, taking his.
Like what you hear? Tell us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
Wow, what happened there? We are back on live talking about the Hall of Fame inductions this year. The Boss Man's is one that I am really looking forward to because who's going to be accepting his induction? Obviously, a family member who is still around for the Boss Man will be accepting this. I remember him, and I remember a lot of people who the Boss Man worked with. I mean, he was a consummate performer, and that's one that I'm looking forward to apart from Sting, who obviously I have been into being a really big fan of, and also, of course, seeing Stan Hansen go in the Hall of Fame. I had the chance to actually work with a couple of this year's Hall of Fame inductees like Stan Hansen and The Godfather, promoting their nightclubs and what they had going on outside of the wrestling business. I mean, Stan Hansen has wrestled all over the world, and I spoke with him about wrestling in Japan and some of the most crucial matches and points that he got to in his career. I know JBL, who I also spoke to, was a really big Stan Hansen fan, and I got that from the interview I did with JBL a number of years ago. And when JBL actually introduced this year's Hall of Fame inductee, one of the final inductions being Stan Hansen, and how proud he was to announce that, of course, known as the Lariat for a number of years in his reign as WCW United States Champion. But I think really the crowning achievement of Stan Hansen's career was all the work he did with so many big names in Japan, going to be inducted, from what I understand, by Big Van Vader, who was also known for wrestling over in Japan. So there are a lot of highlights to expect this year from the Hall of Fame, not taking anything away from anyone else involved with the ceremony this year, like the Freebirds, including Michael Hayes, who was also known in the 90s as Doc Hendricks. Remember him? So there are a lot of ways this one could go. I'm also really looking forward to hearing the induction speech of Sting, what he's going to say to everybody who, of course, he stayed away from WWE, all the people he had a chance to work with, like AJ Styles from TNA, which obviously won't be mentioned, but he'll obviously mention working with a lot of different people, especially names that are with WWE that work with World Championship Wrestling, like The Big Show. I mean, there's a lot that can be said for Sting's Hall of Fame induction, and there's still a lot that can be done with Sting's character and the WWE, which leads me to believe they could factor in to the Hell in a Cell match with The Undertaker and Shane McMahon. What match is the worst match on the WrestleMania card this year? When I really think about it, the worst match on paper, I hate to say it, is though the Hell in a Cell match between The Undertaker and Shane McMahon. The most exciting probably is the Divas Championship match, because this is the first time in almost 10 years, as I previously mentioned, that we're going to be seeing a Divas triple threat match. The last time that I can remember the Divas Championship or the women's title being defended in a triple threat match was all the way back to Seattle in 2003 for WrestleMania 19. They were the third or the fourth match on the show. Trish Stratus went in as one of the challengers and defeated Jazz and Victoria in an incredible triple threat match. What an awesome exchange that was, to become the women's champion for a record time and going on to hold it over 7 times throughout her legendary career. She went in the Hall of Fame a few years ago, I think around the same time Edge did. I could be wrong with that, but I think she did go in around the same time Edge did. But I remember that triple threat match, and this being the first Divas triple threat match in years, for the first time ever for the Divas Championship. This is going to be phenomenal, and I think we are really in for a treat when you're talking about Charlotte, Becky Lynch, and Sasha Banks, with how much they are over. So you can expect big things to happen from this triple threat match. Not so much excited also for the ladder match, but I do appreciate WWE trying to come up with something for the Intercontinental title to really be meaningful this year at WrestleMania. But again, how many ladder matches, how many times have we seen the Intercontinental Championship defended with this inadequate concept of the title being on the line in a ladder match with over 6 or 7 wrestlers? And it's either that or the Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania, which really was a staple for kicking off WrestleMania. This is probably going to be your kickoff match, with how ladder matches seem to have kicked off WrestleMania for either the titles or the Money in the Bank briefcase in the last 10 years. So don't be surprised if they kick WrestleMania off trying to make WrestleMania historical by kicking it off with another ladder match. Same old song and dance repeating itself. It's going to feel like deja vu for a lot of people with different competitors that we've seen compete in this same kind of inadequate concept for years. This is not going to be much different, but I mean, how does Zack Ryder make any sense in this match? If anyone makes sense in this match, is obviously Sami Zayn, Dolph Ziggler, and The Miz, who make more sense, even more so Sami Zayn with his feud with Kevin Owens. That's been noted for the last number of months, and how Kevin Owens has really been putting over people like Sami Zayn, saying that someone like Sami Zayn makes no sense for how much he's over. So it makes more sense for Sami Zayn to come out with the IC title if it were to change hands, more so than Zack Ryder, whose last title I think was the United States Championship or the Internet Championship, which really meant nothing to his career. The last time Zack Ryder made any sense or was actually relevant was 2012, a difference of 4 or 5 years maybe. So, where does he really factor into this? And you can say that about a lot of people in this match. Like, where does Stardust factor into all this? Is this a tribute to Dusty Rhodes? Where does somebody like a Sin Cara factor into this match? I mean, yeah, he may be a comic book superhero kind of guy in Mexico and be one of the biggest wrestling icons to come out of Mexico, but is he really that much over to United States fans? Are they really into the concept of the Lucha Dragons that much? And you got to wonder, too, will matches like Dean Ambrose and Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns and Triple H live up to the expectation of wrestling fans? Is Roman Reigns versus Triple H a match that you want to see this year at WrestleMania? I think I speak for a lot of wrestling fans when I say it's not really my cup of tea for a wrestling match, referencing British fans out there for the championship compared to championship matches that we have seen in the past, like The Undertaker versus Batista or Shawn Michaels versus John Cena. It's not going to be one of those 5-star matches where Roman Reigns and Triple H blow the roof for WrestleMania 32. It's not going to be a match that steals the show. If a match steals the show this year at WrestleMania, it'll either be the incredible effort of Shane McMahon going out swinging to The Undertaker, or the incredible effort of The Undertaker if in fact he retires at his final WrestleMania with the announcement of Vince McMahon. It's either going to be that or the triple threat match between the Divas for the for the Divas Championship. That's going to be what steals the show, if you want to talk about show stealers, this year for WrestleMania. And really, when you look at the WrestleMania card this year, it's not really offering us much as wrestling fans. Again, you can blame the number of injuries we saw throughout 2015, early 2016. You can blame it on Seth Rollins wanting to be in the main event picture for a really long time from creative. And then, of course, that injury really had to force them to go back and rewrite a lot of things. John Cena, Randy Orton not going to WrestleMania. A lot factors in here. And obviously, millions are feared to be lost by WWE by looking at the card on paper. It looks awful on paper. And I said, this card reminds me of WrestleMania 22 back in 2006. A difference of 10 years ago. Throw yourself back there, and all the last-minute stipulations, which seem to be the case this year for WrestleMania 2. These last-minute stipulations put in place to make WrestleMania 32's card look more impressive really looked at it as an act of desperation, if you want to talk about what they're doing here, because they really don't know what they're offering us from a perspective of a creative team or whatever for WrestleMania 32, and I think they're just doing it as an act of desperation because they don't really know what direction to take WrestleMania 32 in, or even the fallout of WrestleMania 32. What it's going to come down to is someone who shows up at WrestleMania or someone who returns in the fallout of WrestleMania, keeping in mind the track record of WrestleMania debuts post-WrestleMania or returns, like Mick Foley in 1996, debuting in April of 1996, April 1st when he attacked The Undertaker. Brock Lesnar, 2012, just 4 or 5 years ago. So WrestleMania has been known for big returns. Goldberg in 2003, so we could be seeing either a huge debut or return in the fall of WrestleMania 32, which could make up for what is probably the most lackluster WrestleMania we've been talking about in conversation for years. But just to let you guys know, I'm not really expecting much at a WrestleMania this year, but I will be doing a WrestleMania 32 Fallout shoot video with my opinion and my very blunt, no beating around the bush opinion about WrestleMania 32, as I did a countdown video for WrestleMania 32 on my YouTube channel because of the response I got last year.